Let's talk about detachment, because for most people, that single shift is the difference between chasing someone into further distance and pulling them back without a single word. The problem is, when she leaves, your instincts will scream at you to fix it, to explain, to close the gap as fast as possible. You'll want to send long messages, call late at night, or find excuses to bump into her. And that's exactly what makes her feel even more certain she made the right decision walking away. See, in that moment, you've handed her all the control. You've positioned yourself as the one trying to be chosen instead of being the one worth choosing. Detachment is not about being cold. It's not a game where you punish her with silence just to get a reaction. That's still rooted in neediness. You're still reacting to her instead of reclaiming yourself. True detachment means this. You stop making her the center of your emotional universe. You stop tying your peace of mind to whether she texts you back or not. You no longer measure your value by her presence. And here's the paradox. When you pull your energy away, it doesn't just vanish. It shifts back to you. Suddenly, your time, your attention, your emotions, all of these become scarce again. And scarcity, whether we like to admit it or not, creates value in human relationships. When you're always available, always ready to respond, there's no urgency to come back. But when you step into a life that's moving with or without her, the psychology changes. She feels your absence, not just the absence of your presence, but the absence of your attention, your emotional investment, your validation. That absence is what makes someone start to question the decision they made. Most people misunderstand this part. They think detachment means pretending not to care, but they're still checking her social media every hour, still dissecting every word she says, still waiting for her to come back. That's not detachment, that's emotional obsession with a mask on. Detachment is when you can truly let go of the outcome. When you can say, whether she comes back or not, my life is going to be full, rich, and meaningful. This is where the philosophical depth comes in, because it's not just about her. Detachment is a discipline in every area of life. It's about living in a way where you are anchored in your own sense of self so deeply that no one person can destabilize you. It's about understanding that love is best expressed from a place of choice, not dependency. And that means you're not afraid to lose her, because your worth didn't come from her in the first place. When you live like this, something shifts in her perception. She starts to remember you differently, not as the man who was begging for her attention, but as the man she first noticed, the one who had his own life, his own gravity, his own pull. The irony is, that's often the very energy she was drawn to in the beginning, and detachment is the way you get it back. So if you want her to return, stop trying to pull her back, stand still, center yourself, let her feel the space where you used to be, and let that space speak louder than any words you could send. In the end, the most powerful move is not chasing someone into your life, but becoming the kind of person they can't imagine living without. Here's the truth, people don't come back because you told them you've changed. They come back because they can see it. And not in the dramatic, staged kind of way where you post filtered photos with captions designed to make her jealous. That's still you acting for her attention, which means you're still orbiting around her. Real change, the kind that pulls someone toward you without words, happens in silence. It's the quiet rebuilding of your value, brick by brick, when no one's watching. When she walked away, she froze her image of you in time. Whatever the last version of you she saw, that's the snapshot she's carrying. Maybe you were stressed, maybe you were insecure, maybe you were clinging too tightly. That's the mental picture she left with, and right now, she believes that picture is the truth. Your job isn't to argue with it, to send her long paragraphs about how you're different now. Your job is to become so undeniably different that the old version of you no longer fits. That means investing in yourself in ways that have nothing to do with her opinion. Start with your physical presence, not because you're trying to show off. but because discipline and self-care radiate confidence in ways words never can. Build your fitness, update your style, carry yourself with the posture of someone who knows where he's going. And then expand that into your mental and emotional space. Read more, learn more, surround yourself with people who challenge and inspire you. Develop new skills, explore new interests, take risks you wouldn't have taken before. The point is to create a life that's rich and self-sustaining. And here's the psychological depth to it. When someone leaves, they often expect you to crumble, to shrink into a smaller version of yourself, because they're no longer there. But when you do the opposite, when you quietly grow into someone larger, more grounded, more magnetic, you disrupt the narrative they've been telling themselves. You create what's called a cognitive dissonance, a mental gap between the story in their head and the reality in front of them. That gap is where curiosity lives. That's where she starts thinking, maybe I misjudged him, maybe I left too soon. You don't need to announce this transformation. In fact, the less you try to prove it, the more powerful it becomes. When people hear you talk about your growth, they can question it. When they see it in your energy, in the way you carry yourself, in the fact that you're not chasing, they can't deny it. That's when the pull begins, and here's the beauty of this approach. Even if she doesn't come back, you've still won. Because the work you've done has elevated you. You've built a stronger, more complete version of yourself that will carry you forward into every relationship, every opportunity, every challenge. So, understand this. The silence you keep isn't empty. It's the space where you rebuild. It's the quiet, consistent signal that says, I am more than what happened. I am more than what I lost. I am becoming someone worth finding again. When you do that, you stop waiting for her to choose you. You start choosing yourself, and that's exactly when people start to realize they might have made the wrong choice. When someone walks away, they carry a version of you in their mind that's locked to the emotions they felt in the final moments. If things ended in conflict, they remember tension, frustration, and the heaviness of being around you. If things ended in distance, they remember detachment, maybe even boredom. That memory becomes their filter. Every thought of you passes through it. And here's the challenge. As long as that emotional image stays unchallenged, there's no reason for them to reconsider coming back. This is why creating emotional contrast is so powerful. Emotional contrast is not about flipping your personality or becoming someone you're not. It's about showing a different side of yourself than the one they've been replaying. Think of it like this. If they left during a storm, your job is to let them glimpse the calm. If they left during a drought, your job is to let them see warmth and color again. Humans are wired to respond to change. When we encounter a shift in emotional tone, it disrupts our expectations. That disruption is exactly what you want. Because the moment she feels something different from you, something that doesn't match her mental picture, she can no longer hold onto the certainty of her decision. Doubt starts to creep in, not because you told her she's wrong, but because her own emotions are telling her something doesn't add up. Now, how do you do this without it looking like a performance? The key is subtlety. You're not trying to orchestrate big, dramatic displays that scream, "Look how different I am now." You're letting those moments happen naturally, almost as a byproduct of the work you've been doing on yourself. Maybe you're more patient when you speak. Maybe you laugh in a way that feels lighter than before. Maybe you handle a situation with composure instead of frustration. These are small shifts, but they land big when they're unexpected. Philosophically, this works because it's rooted in one of the deepest human drives, curiosity. When people believe they know everything about you, they stop being curious, and without curiosity, there's no motivation to reconnect. But when you break that pattern, when you introduce a version of yourself they didn't see coming, you reignite the question, what else has changed? That question is the bridge that leads them back into your world. Think about the opposite for a moment. If you try to get her back by rehashing the same emotional patterns she left, you've already lost. You might as well hand her the same script and expect a different ending. Emotional contrast is about rewriting that script without saying a word. And here's the subtle brilliance. The change doesn't have to be directed at her at all. It can be in how you interact with others, how you carry yourself in public, or even how you respond to life's small annoyances. If she happens to see or hear about it, it's far more compelling because it's not aimed at her. It feels authentic. So, don't underestimate the quiet power of being different in ways that matter. Not louder, not flashier, just unmistakably different from the version she walked away from. That's what creates the emotional friction that makes someone rethink everything they thought they knew about you. In the end, it's not about erasing the past. It's about showing there's more to the story. And when you give someone a glimpse of a new chapter, they'll often want to read the rest. Here's the reality. The strongest pull isn't created when you convince someone to come back. It's created when they believe they made that choice on their own. People resist what feels forced, but they run toward what feels like their own idea. That's human psychology at its core. The moment someone senses pressure, their instinct is to push back, even if a part of them wants what's being offered. But when they feel they arrived at a decision independently, their commitment to it is far deeper. This is why the goal is not to drag her back into your life, but to quietly create conditions where coming back feels natural to her. You're planting emotional breadcrumbs, small moments, subtle reminders of the bond you once shared, but you're never handing her a map. You're letting her connect those dots herself. That could be as simple as a shared joke that only the two of you would understand, a small nod to a memory that's impossible for her to ignore, or even the tone of your voice in the rare moments you do speak. The point is to spark a feeling without demanding action, because when a person starts revisiting old memories in a warm light, they begin to rewrite their own narrative about you. They start to think, maybe it wasn't all bad, maybe I was too quick to walk away. And here's where the philosophical depth comes in. You're not trying to rewrite her past, you're simply giving her a reason to re-experience it differently. The human mind is not a recorder of events, it's a storyteller, and when you provide her with new emotional material, the story changes. But this only works if you truly respect her autonomy. You can't fake giving someone space while secretly trying to manipulate them into a decision. That energy always leaks through. What you're aiming for is genuine openness, an unspoken message that says, I'm here, but I'm fine without you. This balance creates a sense of safety for her to step closer without feeling trapped, and you might be surprised by how little it takes for the shift to happen. Sometimes it's not a grand gesture that draws someone back. It's the way you looked completely at ease in a moment she didn't expect, or the way you were genuinely engaged with something other than her. That's when the contrast hits. She remembers you as someone who needed her presence to be complete, and now she sees someone who is complete without her. That's magnetic from a psychological standpoint. When you let someone arrive at the decision to reconnect on their own, they own that choice. They defend it, they nurture it, they commit to it, because it's not about you convincing them, it's about them convincing themselves. And once they've done that, the bond that forms is far stronger than anything you could have forced. So let go of the idea of winning her back through argument, persuasion, or persistence. Instead, let the distance do some of the work for you. Let her curiosity fill in the blanks you've deliberately left open. Trust that the version of you she now sees, calm, centered, and quietly evolving, is enough to draw her back without a single push. Because in the end, the most powerful way to bring her home is to make her believe she was the one who decided to return.